welcome to Penny Broadley Nachtwaffen Pilot Presents. And today, my friend and brother, not real world, but spiritual, Michael Lee Hill has graced me with his presence.
Well. Am I blushing? I might be blushing.
You are blushing.
I blush all the time.
I've been pestering Mike for 5 years, and we were at a conference together, and we were even on a panel together once. And my love for this man is unconditional. So today we want to talk about his interactions with the Anunnaki and how he found out a lot of the things that he has had and how it's influenced his music and anything else Mike wants to talk about.
Well, thank you for having me, Penny.
Well, I'm glad. I'm tickled you're here. So when did you, tell me how this began.
Well, I live very close to Lake Erie, and I started noticing these craft out over Lake Erie. And by the way, the secret Pentagon program, that funded Bigelow, they contacted me over these sightings and what turned into the contact we're going to talk about. And they told me, we know you're in contact with the real thing because we've been studying this phenomenon over the Skinwalker Ranch for a very long time. So that's interesting just to start off the conversation. But I started seeing these orbs of light out over the lake, and I didn't know what they were because it's not your typical idea of what a UFO is. It's a big ball of light. And so I started going down to the lake. I found any place I could find like little nooks and crannies and beaches, and I'd start going down around sunset and just hang out. And I had my little Sony Handycam with me, and I was ready. If a big ball of light flew by, I was ready to film it. And that is what led the History Channel to contacting me to be on their show UFO Hunters. Thank you for sharing that info, by the way. That was a trip. We can get into that and everything I learned from them. But that's when they had my blood tested by a Harvard professor. His name was David Systrom. And it was revealed on that show, Alien Contact, it's in season 1, that I don't have normal human blood. And I know that sounds weird, but it is what it is. And that, I believe, because that show aired in March of 2008. In the summer of 2008 is when the Anunnaki approached me and said, we want to talk to you about this blood anomaly that was revealed on the History Channel. And they told me it's truly an indicator that you're of our hybrid bloodline. They said it was known as the Nephilim in the Bible. And that's what started it all, is back in, the summer of 2008. So it's been quite a surreal trip since then. But
yeah, that kind of would be. To find out you're not entirely human and to meet the others involved.
Well, it was really weird when the Harvard professor told me this, because I was like, wait a minute, man, this isn't a TV show to me anymore. What are you talking about? Is there something I should be worried about? And he said, well, what do you think unknown means? Pretty much I did about it. I was like, oh, he said, if I had to take a guess, I would think that it was some kind of virus that's working on your DNA and tricking your body into releasing these massive amounts of this enzyme called creatine kinase. And he said, but we don't know. Because creatine kinase is usually only released in the blood when you've had muscle damage, or you've ripped a muscle, or you've had a heart attack. And the levels are 25 parts per liter of blood in the normal, blood of a human. And if you've had muscle damage, it'll go up to about 250 to 300 tops. And that is because creatine kinase brings oxygen into the bloodstream to facilitate healing. So, if you've ripped a muscle, your brain releases more creatine kinase. It goes to that area. And what I've found out is the more oxygen in the blood equates to how much electrical capacitance you're holding on a cellular level. You could think of it as chi or prana. But what they found was if normal amounts are 25 parts per liter of blood, mine was at 2,100. But what
Wow.
odd in the anomaly was there was no medical reason for it. I hadn't ripped a muscle, hadn't had a heart attack. You know, this is in 2008. If there was a medical reason behind it, I'm sure I would know by now. But that was the weird part of it, is they couldn't find a medical reason of why, you know, my blood is so saturated with this enzyme. But I can tell you, when I was taken aboard the ACIO, you know, A.R. Bordon's group, they told me that they had about 200 members, and 12 people of their organization had my same bloodline, they told me. And my numbers of 2,100 would put me in the middle of those 12, with the tops being 12,000. And they said that person could pretty much spontaneously heal themselves. I'm not near that. I just run real hot. I don't get sick easily, and I do heal fast, but I'm nowhere near spontaneous healing. I don't want to test it.
I can understand that. Okay, I'm going to use a technical term from A.R. Bordon's stuff. Have you been able to LERM? L-E-R-M.
Yes. That's actually why they took me into their program, because I had taught myself to learn before them, and they knew it. They said, you know, this gets into some deep stuff, but, you know, the first person I met was Marduk, and he said, I work for a group of people who decides what gets released to the public regarding the extraterrestrial subject. And some of the stuff you've released isn't on the script. So how could that be? And I willed it in.
Marduk wasn't happy with me either, but
I don't think he's happy with most when he's in that role, you know, because he's definitely facilitating a role to humanity to reflect back a negative polarity, because it's needed. Those things need to be transmuted. And there's only one way to transmute an energy, period, and that is transmutation. Energy can't be created or destroyed. It needs to be transmuted. So how do you transmute a negative thought form? Well, you live it. You know, it comes up into your own reality for you to choose love over fear, and then it gets transmuted into its higher octave. When you don't, those things just keep recirculating in your life over and over again. And you go, why does this same shit keep happening? You know, it's different people, but it's the same thing. Well, it's because those energies haven't been transmuted. And that's Marduk's role, is if you need a dark lesson, he's there to facilitate that. And unfortunately, this world is just filled with dark lessons. That's just, I guess, where we're at in our evolution. But, you know, we're just adolescents getting out of kindergarten, so we got time.
When I was in that cycle, repeat, I finally got to the point I would just kind of look up at the heavens and say, so what am I supposed to be learning from this? Because I obviously haven't figured it out for myself. And I would hear an answer and then go, and go through the process. But yeah, you have to transmute those energies or they just keep cycling in your life.
Yeah, there's no other way, and no one can do it for you. You know, there's no, as Sarah says, everyone has to swim the moat. And it doesn't matter who you are. I found out that the Anunnaki do not know who's who here. Everyone is under the veil, and no one gets a free ride through. You know, everyone gets put through the machine, as you know, and I know.
Oh yeah, we both know that. I think the agencies, the alphabet agencies, I guess is a good way of putting it, have some tech that allows them to know who's operating at a higher energy. And
I'm sure of that. Matter of fact, once I met the Anunnaki and I came back, A.R. Bordon said, what the hell happened? We can tell you've had a huge change in your energy signature. But actually, who is who, though? Even at the state of the Anunnaki, they had no idea who I was sitting before Marduk until I let them probe my pineal gland, my third eye, with, it was tech. It was like a wand that had a purple diode, and I could feel it stimulate my third eye. And it actually felt good. It kind of felt like the butterflies you get when you're, you know, in a vehicle and you go over a hill. You know, I remember specifically it said, truth serum. We'll have at it, man. I'm an open book. And that's when everything changed. So I know that they didn't know who I was until I let them look. And that's interesting to me, you know?
Yeah. I was interacting with a Marduk avatar rather than the real deal. And he knew who I was before I told him. And well, actually he contacted me in Messenger on Facebook and said, I think you are so-and-so, and I want you on my team. And I was like, yes, I'm an avatar of so-and-so, but I'm not sure I want to be on your team. I know your rep. And he was like, basically he claimed that his reputation was slander. So maybe not. But I know from my experiences in space, everybody thinks they're the good guy. So
yeah, you can tell by their, you know, actions, right? Words mean very little. If you're you know, if you're torturing people and shit, that's not very good. But, you know, I did hear too, you know, if you come before this intelligence with fear in your heart, fear is what you're going to experience first. They'll mirror it right back to you, you know?
But we're talking about you here, so let's go with that.
Cool. I actually, it's weird, man. Like the least favorite thing for me to talk about is me. I actually am pretty tired of me, but
I remember that from the conference. You were pretty tired talking about you then. So
tell you what saved it though is the whole 432 and NASA looking into my work, because it gave me something to talk about other than me. So kind of rejuvenated my enthusiasm for doing interviews and whatnot, because now I can talk about other things.
Yeah. So what did you, are you allowed to talk about what you did with A.R. Bordon's group?
Yeah, absolutely. A matter of fact, right before his passing, because, you know, the work we did ended up going against the transhumanists and their depopulation agenda. And this is back in 2012. And it led to them actually, you know, passing away, I guess would be, there's more to it than that, obviously. And many of us think it wasn't a natural passing. And, you know, the last time I talked to him, he had fear in his voice that I had never heard before. And he said, you know, we pissed off the wrong people. These are the people behind the Georgia Guidestones, you know.
Okay.
He said,
I know some of those people.
Yeah, their main objective is depopulation. So right before his passing, he told me, you know, the time for secrecy is over, because up until that point, he said, you know, we don't want any light shown this way. And so I didn't, you know, the whole time I was working with them, I was very respectful, because mind you, you know, he became a father figure to me, and I was getting, you know, a course of study and actually helping me process my meeting with the Anunnaki. That wasn't coming from anywhere else. So he became a close friend and confidant to me. But yeah, he said, you know, the time for secrecy is over. So I feel I'm absolutely open to talk about anything. Just ask. All you got to do is ask.
Okay, so since I know some of your story, I will ask polite questions. Okay, I would like to know about the work you guys did, why the people like you were collected for his agency.
Right on. It was every year they have a multiracial, and I'm talking races, like,
ET races.
yes,
Okay.
conference called the Link, and it was aboard an Anunnaki mothership. Mostly, I guess one time they did have it in Hawaii, but usually it's aboard an Anunnaki mothership, and they talk about things that were coming up in the future that needed addressed. And one of them was Nibiru's passage, and another one was the galactic superwave, this really intense wave of energy that was spit out from the black hole in the middle of our galaxy. And both things were culminating in 2012. So that was the reason, because it said, to ask for help, you just can't ask them to solve it. You need to suss up to the table. And not only do yeah, you can ask for help, but you need to have here's our best remedy, And so we did that, and they agreed to help us in 2012. But what happened was, yeah, the group was tasked with communicating with our counterparts on the kingdom, Nibiru. But also in 2012, if you remember, there was Hurricane Sandy, and people don't know about Earthquake Charlotte that happened on the other side of the United States. And that happened out in the ocean, but it created a tsunami that was about a 20-foot wall of water that was heading towards Hawaii. And all this is verifiable. Just go and type in Hawaii 2012 tsunami. And tsunami buoys, they don't lie. There was a 20-foot wall of water. But I'll tell you what was weird was we were only tasked with Hurricane Sandy. And I'll tell you what happened with this is they said, we know you're not weathermen, but all we need you to do is, they gave us tasking instructions of all the most current, accurate scientific weather data for Hurricane Sandy, and wind trajectory and speed and strength and all that kind of stuff. They said, we know this isn't going to make any sense to you, but you're going to be the Anunnaki's iPhone. They're going to be looking through your eyes, and they will know what to do with this data. All you need to do is place your eyes on it. So during this is when the earthquake Charlotte happened on the other side of the United States. And, AR acted as the wave guide, what it was called, for the tasking of Hurricane Charlotte. What a wave guide does is takes all the mental energy from the seven of us, and just like a microphone, the signal that a microphone actually gets is very weak. It needs to be amplified through circuitry to then send it out the microphone cable to your PA system, or a computer in this case. That AR functioned as the wave guide in that mission. But I took it upon myself. I'm like, well, wait a minute, man, there's a wall of water heading towards Hawaii. So I went to a really popular message board, and the whole idea of what we're doing is, when two or more people align their mental energy, your manifestation abilities go through the roof.
Yeah.
So I asked for people's prayers for Hawaii, and all of a sudden it was pinned to the top of the message board, and thousands of people responded. So I acted. I said, because I got to tell you, with the mission, I had a partner. And first of all, it was confirmed, they called it a handshake, that we could communicate telepathically and recognize each other's energetic signature. And from there, once that was established, then they seen if we had a handshake with the incoming Anunnaki. And I guess you'd call it our counterpart. Once that was established, then, the work commenced. But it's since that handshake had been confirmed, I figured, why, look through my eyes, take this energy that's coming from this message board and help Hawaii as well. And so I put myself in the position of wave guide in
Okay.
that part of the mission, with intention.
Yeah, it
You
has to
know,
be with intention.
yes. And so lo and behold, as everyone knows, all the energy was taken out of both storms. When Hurricane Sandy hit New York, it didn't have any intensity left whatsoever. And the same thing in Hawaii, when that tsunami finally reached the shores, because it was in real time on TV, they like 4 hours it's going to hit. And
Yeah.
they showed on TV, they took everyone to higher ground and they're just sitting there waiting. The only thing that hit Hawaii was this little ripple, so that's what pissed off.
Congratulations.
Thank you. A lot of people's lives were saved, but that's what
Yeah.
actually pissed off these people who wanted these earth changes to happen and wanted a huge depopulation agenda, because in their mind, they could come out of their bunkers and, inherit the world and not having us to worry about. Because they told me their main thing is they don't trust humanity with unlimited free energy. They said it truly is the true equalizer, and that once it's released on a planet, it's free, it's unlimited, and it's energy, and everyone will have access. So they said, what do you think someone that's in the Middle East that would, stone a woman to death because she was rumored to be having an affair, what do you think that they're going to do with their unlimited free energy? I thought it was a really interesting point. I had never thought about it. They said, unless a planet is vibrating at the highest level possible, unlimited free energy can't be released on the planet because it will be misused. That simple. Well, I find it very interesting because of Elon Musk, and now like someone's changed their mind.
Yeah.
And this technology is reaching the masses, and yeah.
You can only hold it out so long. The part of space that we entered when the solar system crossed the equator of the galaxy in about 2012 to 2016, that range.
Yeah. Would you consider that the photon light belt?
The photon light belt is in the bottom half of the galaxy. And so we entered the photon belt when we did that.
Hmm.
And I've been watching. The people who can handle the energy are really waking up. And the people who can't are really going backwards.
Yeah.
And the split is just really obvious watching. I've collected about 700 people on my new profile, and they're some of the smartest people that I know on Facebook. And yes, you're one of them. And when I watched just before that, there were people who were very awake and very aware and very with it, who have slid back into fear since we crossed the equator into the photon belt. And from my point of view, it was like, oh damn. I was watching people go backwards, and it was, what can I do about this? And the Anunnaki who talked to me were telling me, you can't do anything about this. They can either handle it or they can't.
Right.
So
Yeah, there's a lot of just life experience, things that hurt us. They call it shadow work, and it's all unconscious mostly. It's shoved deep down. So when those things surface, as we said, they need to be transmuted.
Mm.
And so if someone enters this time and they haven't done their spiritual homework and they have a lot of fear and doubt and BS in their belief system, they're going to have a rough ride of it, because all that stuff's going to surface. And that's why it's so important for us to learn, to breathe, to process this information, to train yourself to always ask, well, thank you for showing me what I got a fear stamp on. What else is available? Because once you ask what else is available, you sever that tie to the mass unconsciousness. And it's not that the mass unconsciousness is bad. If it's all good, love-filled thought forms, then you have at it. But most of the time, unfortunately, with where the human race is at its evolutionary point, there's a lot of fear and doubt still within the mass consciousness. So what I learned is most of the thought forms that we have right away when we're experiencing, especially trial and tribulation, the first thought forms that come into our head are not truly ours. It's from the mass consciousness. That no matter what we do to clear your own belief system, we are still a part of the mass consciousness, the sovereign, integral. We got to learn to be individual, yet still maintain our connection to the whole. And
We are not of this world, but we are still in it.
right on. Yes, indeed. So those things need to be processed. And what I have learned is the first thought forms that enter our minds are from the mass consciousness. And it's usually, oh, I'm getting burned again. Oh, why is this happening again? Oh, and if you allow it and I heard we're not really thinking, we're listening, and if you accept those thought forms, that becomes your reality and it's self-confirming, but if you just train yourself to go, well, thank you for showing me what I got a fear stamp on out of this infinity of possibility from light to dark. You've showed me what because there's way worse things that you could probably focus on, but one of those forms is something you've experienced. Someone betrayed you so that's what pops up in your head. And if you can train yourself to go, well, thank you, what else is available? And truly what I learned is a lot of people speak about free will, right? Well, if there's only truly one thought form that has the most love-filled outcome for everyone involved, what does that have to do with free will?
Yeah.
All you have free will to do is choose jumping back into the Maya, or the illusion, to one degree or not. It might not be that bad, but it might, because you can only focus on the most love-filled outcome. That's only one. That's not free will. You have no more free will. You got to choose the highest road constantly. And it's usually not the easy road,
No, it's never the easy road. It's never easy to go through well, for me, I've had to forgive people who have betrayed me, and
Yes.
and the relationship changes because it takes me personally a long time to trust someone after betrayal.
Yeah. A lesson once learned is so hard to forget.
Yeah, but I will give them that second chance. And in my personal life, I have had the tendency to give them a third chance, but that one they tend to bite harder. So I've just sort of, okay, you get a second chance, and if you bite me again, then I'm done. And then it will be someone else who bites me. So I'm like, okay, the lesson has to be learned, even if it's not the same person. And sometimes I think the lesson for me is to not let people bite me. So
Yeah, it's my stickler point was, disrespect. If someone was really like in my own house, really perturbs me. And it doesn't matter whether it's disrespect to me or disrespect to someone else, And to me, it's like one of my things that brings my horns out is, if you make me go, how dare you? you know,
Yeah.
it's not, doesn't end well. But then, you know, I asked the big woman upstairs, I said, you know, I need to figure this out because I just don't want to be friendless. And she said, truly what you're doing is you're going into judgment. They're not acting how you think that they should be behaving. That's a form of judgment. And she said, so if you want the opposite, if you want to train yourself, what's the opposite of judgment? I thought that was a very interesting question. And I'll tell you, I was wrong in everything that I brought up. And finally, she said, it's blessing. Blessing is the opposite of judgment. It doesn't even mean you're agreeing. It could be even more so, you know, man, you really need a blessing, you know? But she said, if you can, you know, pay attention to your inner dialogue and your inner frequency, the frequency of blessing has a totally different frequency of judgment.
Okay.
And I've tried to do that. It's a work in progress, you know, in the heat of the moment to go, you know, how about bless you, you know, because believe me, sometimes I still get wrapped up in it. And I think that's something we all got to learn of how to not respond, because what I found out is that Team Bad Cop, they can make things appear as what they're not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you'll be responding to illusion, man, you know, and you won't even know it's illusion. Sometimes you have the blessing of afterwards going, oh, that's not even what I thought was happening, you know, but they can do that very well and they're masters at it. So you got to train yourself to go into observer mode. You know, so many times I tell myself, you know, do not respond, do not respond. Observer mode, you know.
For me, because of my past, uh, I have a tendency to slide into disassociation, which is like observer mode, except that it's like everything's happening to someone else, not actually happening to me. And at that point, I have no emotional responses at all, positive or negative. And there's no judgment, and I'm just like a recording device. And I will watch and see what's going down. But if in that mode I decide that you're just biting me, I can cut you out of my life entirely and never look back.
But I'm the exact same way. The only, you know, I have my own rule, and that is if someone has enough courtesy to come back to me and apologize for their behavior, I'll always give them a second chance or a third chance or a fourth chance. Those people usually run out of chances. They just, you know, it's in their behavior, I guess. But to me, it's a big deal if someone can apologize and say, you know what, I'm sorry. Then, you know, then I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But like you, if someone just, they're ignorant and, you know, because we, as humans, we're conscious creators, and you can choose not to allow certain behavior in your reality. And until you make those boundaries, you know, what you allow persists, you know?
Exactly.
And, you know, is no, I don't accept that behavior in my reality. And that's totally okay to do. Matter of fact, I think it's part of mental health.
When I started just saying, I'm not going to tolerate this crap anymore, and started enforcing it, I had a lot fewer problems. What was it? Last month, I had several people just going absolutely apeshit in Messenger. And I posted on my wall, what was it? The smoking chimpanzee picture, that it's my wall and I'll post what I damn well want, and
Yeah,
whether
right
you
on.
like it or not. And I did kind of explain up at the top in comments, you know, in the framing, what was going on. And it was just basically, if you can't treat me like a human being, you're going to be gone.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think Facebook gives a lot of people big balls, you know, like, and it's unfortunate because it brings out an ugly side of a lot of people. And boy, I've just been, I go through phases of, you know, Facebook is really starting to annoy me. I'll just say that. Just even going into the election and the division of Trump supporters versus Trump realists. Boy, I'm gonna get in
or
trouble.
Trump haters. I'm in that. I'm in that category of he's the elected president, so you know, over half of the electoral college supported him, and we're stuck with him. And I've been paying attention to what he actually does instead of what comes out of his mouth. And some of the stuff has been good, a lot of it has been bad. And he's still following the same basic storyline that every president since they killed Kennedy has followed. So I'm seeing him at, huh?
911. You know, to me, anyone that looks into it with an open heart and an open brain, open eyes, will see it's not what we've been told. So for me, it's like every single president, every leader since then that is upholding the lie, you know, that was done by terrorists, they're part of the problem and not the solution.
Yeah.
I don't care who they are up until right now. But, you know, being Native American Indian, and specifically, my ancestor was chief corn planter of the Seneca, of, you know, the Iroquois. And chief corn planter is who our forefathers, George Washington, you know, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, they went to chief corn planter to learn what became our Constitution and to learn this experiment in democracy of we the people, because this is what the Iroquois did, is they united their 5 tribes into one united confederacy and lived in peace, where, you know, they had lived in war and strife amongst each other, you know, brother against brother. But not only that, they were at war internally, you know, they had taken in darkness. And
my tribe was at war with itself, which Andrew Jackson took advantage of that to send most of the people to Oklahoma. My father's people were Cherokee.
Oh, we're blood then. Imagine that. Cherokee and Iroquois is the same DNA. It's just the family split, you know, at one point in the past. And, you know, it's interesting too, the Cherokee, as you know, their symbol is the 7-pointed star, which we can get into all that and why it's important. But yeah, so, you know, to me, it's interesting that the actual people that was the true forefather of America, land of the plumed serpents, was chief corn planter. And so why don't we have a voice anymore in the collective whole, you know, on a worldwide level? Why does the Native American Indian have no say-so or no voice? And
from what I can tell, the reservations are prisoner of war camps. And when I was studying with the sovereigns, when they found out my father was Cherokee, they told me that I was a prisoner of war and that the Constitution did not apply to me.
Well, it makes sense.
That I had no rights because I was a prisoner of war.
Yeah, it makes me mad, you know.
It thoroughly pissed me off.
You can imagine then, you know, for that faction, it's truly the Roman remnants is still here, and they don't have their stuff together, you know. But for them, to take our land and learn what became America, and then shut us out of the whole system and go, here, now you got so-and-so and Trump, or, you know, whatever. It's like, how about I don't want to participate in any of it? And so that's not.
I've taken out doing I do not consent. So, because I understand that the group that wants depopulation shares forecasts what they're going to do. They, I guess the proper term is they telegraph their plans to create consent so that they have less karmic problems from it. Because if you don't say, I do not consent, then they don't accrue karma for it. That's something folks need to know.
It makes a lot of sense.
So I've been, when I see something that's horrific, I just say flat out, I do not consent. And I felt a lot lighter since I started doing that. I've been told I'm negative because I'm doing that. But if I don't want a certain thing in my world, I don't think it's a bad thing to say so.
Just say no.
Just say no. So, I mean, what was it they used to say during the anti-drug campaigns? It was just say no. So, yeah, it works. Although what they applied it to was pretty silly.
Yes, indeed. Well, they say
Especially,
marijuana, for one thing, it stops the mind control. So of course they don't want it around, you know.
and we're recording on 420.
Mm-hmm.
I thought
I
that
just
was,
heard there's 420s in today's date.
yeah.
420, 2020, 420 at 420. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
We should be smoking, but
um,
after.
I can't smoke. My throat closes up.
I
So,
like to tell people I don't smoke anymore, any more than the average touring funk band.
I don't have a problem with others doing it. It's just, I can't.
I like to say a million uses and they're all positive, but by all means, well, what about edibles? You like edibles?
I've done edibles. I have to watch the dosage or I end up on a vision quest.
Right on.
So, yeah.
I talk a lot.
I talk a lot anyway.
Yeah, look out too if I've had 5-hour energy. I'm talking and I can't shut up.
It's okay. You're doing fine. So, back to the Anunnaki interactions. So, you talked about stopping the earthquake tsunami, and you talked about taking the energy out of Hurricane Sandy. And I do remember that because the waves still came on shore, but it didn't have the wind with it.
Yeah, or the flooding, because that's one thing they said. We have no idea truly what a biblical horror story that would have been. That if New York flooded, all those rats that are down in the subways, you know, are going to come to the surface. And
Yeah.
so just imagine millions of rats now on the surface and they're hungry.
And carrying fleas and bubonic plague.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
So, yeah, but that is what also, you know, AR said, we've pissed off the wrong people. Our mission was successful. You know, we saved millions of people. But, you know, it was interesting that last phone call, though. He said, Michael, don't think that those people you met, you know, in New York have forgotten who you are. So keep your eyes peeled. And the problem that they have with me is I've never signed any confidentiality agreements or anything. So it's within my free will as a person. If it happened in my real world, they can't do anything. As a matter of fact, now, because in the past, like I said, until they knew who I was, you know, and when I first met Marduk, he was in his bad cop role, you know,
Okay.
he was definitely throwing out threats and whatnot. And after they did the, I don't know even what to call that, you know, looking
Reading.
into Akashic, you know, seeing who,
Reading.
yeah, reading. Um, then everything changed. And I said, well, do I have to worry about my life, or, you know, because what they were specifically upset was, we had Boyd Bushman, who was a senior scientist for Lockheed Martin, and he was in our film. And he's the gentleman, later on, he had a deathbed confession, and all of a sudden they had a cover story that what he had released was Kmart Halloween alien doll, you know. And but I can tell you, this is in 2008, and the elite group, you know, led by Marduk, they were very upset. They said, we decide what gets released to the public, and this Boyd Bushman information was not on the list. So how could this have happened? And that's what led into everything else transpiring. But the whole point of all that,
My interaction with Marduk was in 2015. And he was not in the bad cop role. He was in King of the Earth role, and was trying to recruit me.
Yeah, from what I understand, well, I'll tell you, once the veil dropped, you know, one of the Anunnaki who was there went up and put his arm around him, and because he was in tears at this time, which was odd. He went from bad cop, you know, to very submissive, and I was like, well, that's a change of attitude. What the hell happened, you know? But the other Anunnaki went and put his arm around him and said, don't worry, my king, now you can finally rest. And if you truly look at it, that's probably the worst job in all of creation, is to make an upcoming consciousness experience its own dark thought forms in hopes that they'll change it. And, you know, because like we said, that's the only way to transmute a negative thought form. But I often think of the song Mother by Pink Floyd. You know, if you just substitute Marduk in there, it's Marduk will make sure all your nightmares come true. Marduk will make sure nothing dirties you through. You know, the whole purpose is to make sure nothing dirties you through. You know, to become a clean vessel, any of us, we have to face our own shadow. And hell, isn't that
and
what
everybody has one.
Oh yeah, we all have our own baggage, man. There ain't no use in trying to doubt it.
If you pretend you're perfectly clean, you're just not seeing yourself.
Yep.
So, and that includes me.
We all go through it. The Native American Indians, one of the grandmothers, you know, she sat me down after I was brought before, you know, the 7 Lords of Light, 7 Lords of Darkness, at council.
Talk about that. Our audience doesn't know.
Yeah, it's hard for me to talk about, actually, because, you know, I don't want to step on any toes, and this is a revered thing, but I can tell you I was invited to go to an ancient ceremony of the Native American Indians that's been going on 27,000 years. And this truly, you're being brought before the council. And they're there to vet you. From what I understand, everyone, upon our death, they are there to see if you're a clean vessel. And some of us during the life, you know, normal life, waking life, are brought before the council, because if one person can get past the vetting, it just takes one, you know, that we're all one, right? So if one person can do it, anyone can do it. And all it takes is one. So what had happened was, after I had made the right choices, and by the way, the right choice was not to participate. It was totally back. What's that?
To say no.
To say no, yes. And the grandmother said, "You are the rainbow we've been waiting for." She said, "You see that the human chakra system, it emanates light, but only when the chakra centers are clean and balanced does it spin at the proper rate to emit light. And she said it's the color of the rainbow, from red in the root to purple in the crown. And she said to those of us that have the gift of sight, that you've become the whirling rainbow. And look into the whirling rainbow prophecy for Native American Indians. I think it's a great metaphor because, you know, truly everyone could become rainbow. Everyone, it takes spiritual homework, you know, of cleaning the chakra centers, but no one's ever taught us, you know, if you're having a trial and tribulation, has anyone ever taught us, well, that's a root chakra symptom, you know, if you're having trouble with money or survival or having a roof over your head, that's you know, root chakra. And then give us the tools to work through those things. You know, if you're having trouble speaking, that's a throat chakra issue, you know. So there is a science here to help us become rainbow. And becoming rainbow, it's open to everybody. It doesn't matter what religion, man, woman, Chinese, Australian, American, it doesn't matter. So I truly, in the future, that's what I want to do, is bring forth a new spiritual modality of becoming rainbow. And, you know, the Tibetan monks have the same kind of idea of, you know, obtaining the rainbow body, which is exactly the same thing. But getting back to...
That's where you got the colors for the necklaces.
Yes, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, one direction is from the top down and the other direction is from the bottom up.
Yeah, that is because I, you know, when I found, first of all, I got to say I was adopted. So I never knew my nationality, but because of the History Channel, they're like, if you can contact your biological, you know, birth mother, you really should, to find out if this is something hereditary. So for the first time in my life, I did. And that's when I found out that I'm almost pureblood Seneca, you know, Native American Indian. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool to meet like all the chiefs of all the different tribes and be able to learn from them what they've learned, you know, with contact with extraterrestrial beings for thousands of years, you know. And then my next thought was, well, how the hell is that going to happen? Here's some white dude in Cleveland, Ohio. Like, I don't even know anything. But that's when I met Chief Golden Light Eagle. And he's been on Ancient Aliens many times. And he's the spiritual leader of the Dakota Sioux Nation. Okay. And we were both at a conference and we were walking towards one another and he just stopped and he goes, Michael, I need your energy at the Star Knowledge conferences. I need the Nephilim ambassadors there. I'm looking around going, is he talking to me? You know, like what the... And well, sure enough, you know, he's taken me under the wing and I speak on behalf of the mound builders, the Seneca, at these Star Knowledge conferences. And it's really cool because I just was interviewed. The Canadian Public Broadcasting System was there at the last one. And so they wanted to do, they're doing a whole show on Native American Indian contact with star beings and what they've learned, which is star knowledge. So I'm very excited that, you know, this whole movement of, it's the apocalypse, right? It's the revealing of what was once hidden. It's coming full force. And I feel very good about it. The interview, sometimes I get tongue tied and I spin out. That's when like, I just forget what I'm talking about. But thank God Inky came through, you know, and spoke eloquently. And sometimes it's like, you know, when you're playing guitar, it's like, if I can get out of my own way, that's usually when the best stuff happens. You know,
yeah, I've heard some of your best stuff on YouTube. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, if I can get out of my own way, it's like then spirit can come through me and use me as a instrument, so to speak. You know, I can tell when I grab the reins, it doesn't end that well. It's like, if I'm thinking about it, you're not in the flow, really. You know, anything in life, I think we need to train ourselves to get to the point where whatever it is we're trying to do becomes muscle memory. So you can get...
Yeah, exactly. And when I'm doing these chats, that's what I call them, is I'm chatting with a friend on and recording it. And it's like I don't think ahead of time what I'm going to talk about. I just go in the flow of what comes.
Yeah, me too. You know, that's been my my thing is I just never write notes. I never, you know, Chief Golden Light Eagle. I'm like, well, what should I talk about? He goes, just don't even prepare. Just let spirit take over and let what words are supposed to come. Just trust that they will come. But the last interview I did for the first time, I'm like, I'm gonna write notes. I'm gonna get. It was a disaster. I couldn't even find what I'm looking for. I'm like, ah. So
Well,
yeah, I
I
think this.
have PowerPoints for when I do a conference so that I don't get, depending on the energy that comes from the audience, sometimes I'll just go mind blank. And they're paying money for this. They don't deserve to be stuck with mind blank.
Right
So
on.
I have a PowerPoint.
I did my first PowerPoint as well, and it did help a lot live because it kept me on track. Because
Yeah.
I have been known to go down rabbit holes, and then you know an hour later it's like, okay, what were we talking about? You know?
Yeah. I did a set of videos with Alexander Cherkasov for his Patreon. And he's charging for them. And he would get so frustrated because he would want me to stick to a topic and I would chase rabbits. And then come back to the original one and he's like, I can't even edit that out because you came back.
Hmm.
So
I think it's, you know, just have trust. I think you're doing the right thing. It's my method as well. I don't have any notes in front of me.
I don't. So, okay, we talked about you with A.R. Bordon. We talked about what you did with A.R. Bordon.
You know,
Part of
one
it.
thing I would like to discuss with that is, you know, the whole premise when he took me in under his wing, so to speak. He said, you know, you have music in you, but not just music in the sense of playing guitar and you know, writing songs. That to create matter, you know, to learn, you need musical intelligence. You know, you said you need specific frequencies, but not only specific frequencies, you need specific frequencies and specific sequences. Well,
Okay.
frequencies in a sequence is a song, right? It's a
Yes.
melody. And he said, you're going to learn all about cosmic harmonious frequencies during your study with us. And I'll tell you what happened is, sure enough, you know, I was guided. Uh, one person in general, like, became my tutor into 432. And, you know, we'll get into why that's important. But you know, I got all kinds of ebooks. I've, you know, Skyped with them. I've talked and learned, but simultaneously, I started having communication with the Anunnaki that was truly, they were using crop circles as like a chalkboard in a classroom. And I hadn't put two and two together that this is still the same class that I've been taken into. It took me just recently, I go, oh my God,
Minute.
that was learning about cosmic harmonious frequency. Haha. Yep.
Uh-huh. I have
Yes.
one of those crop circles that you make.
Yeah, that's one of the five. That boy, it looks beautiful on the screen. And yeah, that's one of the five. And it's all about cosmic harmonious frequencies, what was communicated. And they led me to understand the importance of the granddaddy frequency of all is 432 hertz. And I can tell you why is it's the only frequencies that's truly a component, a harmonic of light. And meaning 432 squared becomes c, or the speed of light. I'm talking about E equals mc squared. E equals energy,
Mm-hmm.
m is mass, and then c is the speed of light squared. Well, science now tells us everything is particle and wave simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about it, E equals mc squared is only the particle part of the calculation, the
Yeah.
equation. It's right there, m equals mass. Where's the wave component? Where's and you find out, well, 432 squared becomes c. So another way to say it is 432 base frequency times 2 becomes the speed of light, times, then square that times mass equals energy. And truly, this is now confirmed for the first time ever through science, because I was guided to go into my recording studio and record 20 seconds of my guitar, but I was meticulous in making sure it was tuned properly to 432 hertz, because today's musical standard was changed to 440 hertz in the 1940s. And what you'll find is it doesn't create any structure. It doesn't create any geometry. But you back it off 8 cents. To a human ear, it's barely nothing, but to the universe, it's everything. It's almost like a focus on a camera and focused it. But so I recorded my guitar tuned to 432 hertz, and nothing fancy, mind you. It was just me going bow, bow, for 20 seconds.
Yeah, I've heard the recording you put on your channel.
Cool. Yeah, so the results are kind of historic because, I had already learned to do this. They're called Pleiadian healing discs. And it's what you just showed. It's quartz crystal glass with a copper wrap. Copper is, keeps all the subtle energy within the disc until you connect the circuit by holding it. Your own prana and chi connects the circuit when you hold the disc. And by the way, that's the scientists sent back this image and they said, this is what your audio file created. And they said, we've never seen anything like it. They said, it
that's
encodes,
the cymatic.
this is the cymatic image I've made. These aren't released yet, but they're all like kind of bar coasters. And I really like them, but these aren't released yet, but it shows the image very well. They said that it encodes all of the platonic solids of sacred geometry, but if you look really close, that's a toroidal donut.
Yeah, it is.
It's really the first time a toroidal physics donut, which is a portal into another dimension, has ever been photographed. And this isn't computer generated, this is Mother Nature. And they said, the only thing that they said, we've used this technology to look into everything known to man, whether it's baby noises to monkey noises to dolphin noises to every frequency known to man, but we've never seen this type of complexity or dimensionality. And they said the only thing we can figure out is we've never imaged an electric rock guitar amp. Rock magic.
Absolutely.
They said truly what it was is the tubes in the amplifier, how you get that crunchy Jimi Hendrix, ACD and sound. It's because of vacuum tubes. And one of the only things that still uses vacuum tube technology is really good guitar amps, because they know there's nothing else that does it. So
I remember vacuum tubes in TVs. My dad would take them out and take them to the drugstore and put them in a machine to test which ones had gone bad. And that was when we discovered that if I rubbed the dirt off, I rubbed the paint off, and he lost the numbers. He had to replace all of them. Let's just say he was really pissed, and I could not walk for about a week.
Yeah. Bad girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, tubes. They're an important part of this, because that's one of the secrets to it, because they use digital waveform generators to test what cymatic images would come, but they had never imaged a frequency that came from a really good rock guitar amp. And I use my Joe Satriani amp, so not only is it tubes, but you've got someone who has, you know, molded that amp into being a very pleasing to the human ear sound source. So I think that's an important part. But here's what happened is, you know, I had learned how, like the disc that you just showed, it's of a crop circle. It's sacred geometry of a higher sort. But when I learned to make these discs, they said the most important thing of the whole thing was what sacred geometry that you were using inside the disc, inside the crystal. And, you know, to use, you know, Merkabahs and Flower of Lives and, you know, Metatron's cube, that kind of thing. Well, when I had the cymatic image made, again, this, I thought, well, why not use this image within the crystal?
Yeah.
You know? And boy, the first one I made, I could feel it. I was like, holy crap, you know, big difference. So what had happened was recently Richard Hoagland had me on his radio show, which was a big treat to me because Richard, all through my own awakening, you know, when I needed answers, I was led to Richard Hoagland, and I studied his work. And so it was a big deal to me to actually be asked by him, you know. And just like, I really enjoy our talk today, by the way, Penny. But Richard, he said, you know, we know your story sounds crazy, but, you know, for people that don't know who Richard Hoagland is, he was like a NASA ambassador. You know, he was Walter Cronkite's science advisor from NASA. And he said, NASA's been...
Lots of books.
Yes, yes. He said, we know your story sounds crazy to most people, but we also know, NASA knows, they've been looking into how energy works multidimensionally for a very long time. He called it hyperdimensional physics. And he said, we know that your numbers are right on the money. And also he brought up, because my numbers also match the precessional cycle numbers. Which that's very interesting because, you know, a lot of people know ancient societies and ancient religions all incorporated precessional cycle numbers in their buildings of their temples, even in their culture and how they track time and whatnot. But, you know, a lot of people know, you know, like Graham Hancock is a really big proponent for pointing out, first of all, how did the ancients know of, you know, an approximately 27,000 year cycle of time? How could they have possibly known? But
because the Anunnaki knew.
Yeah, right. But you'll never figure it out. You'll never know why until you have to be a musician. You have to know, well, those are all 432 based musical notes. Like, for instance, just because you have your middle note on your piano tuned properly to A equals 432, not 440, but there's still a lower A note, you know, on your piano, and then there's still a lower A note. And it's really easy math.
Octave levels.
Yeah. All you got to do is divide by 2, right? So, you know, the octaves of 432, it's called an octave, one whole cycle lower or higher. 432 divided by 2 is 216. 216 divided by 2 is 108. 108 is interesting because Tibetan monks have 108 prayer beads, you know, on their prayer bracelets, and they'll repeat mantras 108 times. But then, you know, 108 divided by 2 is 54. And then 54 divided by 2 is 27. And here's where this gets important, because using that same cymatic, you know, scientific equipment that created this, when you pump 27 Hertz through that device, it creates a perfect 7-pointed star. So anytime you see a 7-pointed star, it's directly pointing to cosmic harmonious frequency information. And you'll find out that 432, 216, 108, 54, and 27 are all precessional cycle numbers as well. So it's almost like they've been drip feeding us little bits of information, waiting for us to wake up, which, first of all, tells me they have patience, because they've you know, waited this long for us to finally get it. But so Richard Hoagland says, what I want to do is arrange for NASA to look into your work. And sure enough, he has NASA look into one of my discs. And what he did was he took municipal tap water from California, and it was her name was Beverly Rubik, was the biophysicist who, you know, was a consultant for NASA, and she did the work. She took 6 photographs.
Question, was it city water or mountain water?
No, this was tap water, but they did 3 different waters. They did California municipal tap water, then they did Canadian spring water, and then they did what's it called, Nevian? I think that's the name of it, bottled spring water. What they found was the municipal tap water was almost dead. I've heard from the biophysicists now, they said, we don't even image it because there's no energy left in it. It just looked like a little pinprick of light, you know, and it's called GDV camera. And what it does is it can record the photonic energy within the water droplet. And the more photonic energy, the brighter, you know, the water droplet energy is. So municipal tap water was almost dead. It just looked like a little pinprick of light. And then what she did was she just put that glass of water on one of my 432 discs, which is exactly like the disc you just showed, but it has my 432 Hertz cymatic image in the crystal. Okay. And she left the glass of water there for 15 minutes. And boy, it looked like it exploded with energy. It looks like a little supernova within the droplet of water. But then she left the glass on the disc for a half hour, took another 6 pictures, and then left it for 50 minutes and took another 6 photographs. And what they found, they said this is, because there's a lot of technology that will restructure water, whether you're putting it through high magnetic fields or vortex in it. Yeah, it'll bring energy back into the water. But she said, as the energy comes, the actual light periphery gets larger and more diffuse. And she said with this, for the first time ever, the longer they kept the cup of water on the disc, it was getting brighter but more focused and smaller. She said it's almost turning the light within the water into a laser beam of energy.
Wow.
And in the same way,
the second one of these necklaces you gave us, I have it under my Brita pitcher.
Ah, well,
and
very good idea.
Sits there.
All you know what's interesting? As I asked her, I said, well, wait a minute. If there was no energy, but now there's energy, isn't that some form of unlimited free energy, you know? And I said, where is that extra energy coming from? Is it coming from our solar system? Is it coming from our sun, our planets?
It's coming from that toroidal donut.
Exactly. She said, no, it's that energy is coming from another dimension. So right there, I never had to ask myself, what's it mean to be drinking water that has energy from another dimension in it? Now you have to ask yourself that same question. You know, I can tell you our cells love it. You know, our cells get most of the energy in our body at a cellular level from water. So if we're drinking, you know, it's truly fountain of youth water. And by the way, I was told how to do a water blessing ceremony by Chief Golden White Eagle before any of this happened. And he said, you know, I'm going to tell you, I'm one of only 3 people, he said, that knows where the actual fountain of youth is in Florida. And it's not where people think it is. So he said, I was allowed to go there, and the person that owns the land is a Seneca chief. Okay. And he said that we were allowed to bathe our shamanic healing, you know, medicine man tools, be it feathers or shakers, rattles. We weren't allowed to bring any water out, but we were allowed to bathe our healing instruments in the water and then those instruments would bring forth the attributes of the fountain of youth water out into the real world. And truly, if you know that water has memory, you know, Dr. Emoto showed that, you
Yeah.
know, it's responding to human thought form. So imagine when water is stuck in a loop system like municipal tap water, and it's
Ooh.
absorbing everything that it comes in contact, all the negative thought forms, you know, and then we drink it. And not only that, we put chlorine, we put fluoride, you know, we're sending it through, you know.
Where I live, it's just chlorine.
uh, well,
Um,
that's good. Well, I mean, it's not good, but
but
fluoride is
that's
just
that's
cool.
why I use the Brita pitcher.
Right on. That will do wonders. Um, but you know, he said you were to go to that spring and do a water blessing ceremony with your disc. And he said, truly, the magic is in the image. And I truly believe the Anunnaki have the power to quantum entangle objects. And he said, you know, pretty much in the past, say a Native American Indian chief was allowed to do this water blessing ceremony and quantum entangle their feather with, you know, water has energy that's
Mhm.
never had human thought forms touch it. This is coming from a spring hundreds of feet below the surface. And, you
Okay.
know, and it's virgin water, it's holy water, it's living water. And that's one way I like to think of it, is there's such a thing as dead water and there's such a thing as living water. He said, those discs are your shamanic medicine man tool. He said, the one attribute that a medicine man tool has to have is it has to be made by your own two hands. And
Mhm.
he said, these are your tool. He said, our tools, yeah, I could go back to the tribe and I could, you know, wave someone down and, you know, and help them and clear energy fields. But he said, your technology has the ability to go out all over the world now. And he said, you know, for like this, for example, so that this is actually probably the most important technology because it still is bringing forth the attributes of living water, of
Mhm.
energy, photonic energy from another dimension. This is like a transmitter. And said that, yeah, this is going to uh, reinvigorate your own water. It's going to revitalize, resurrect your own water in your body. But it doesn't stop with your body. It's no matter where it goes on the planet, it's going into the atmosphere. He said the more of these that make a grid around this planet will be creating a grid of uh, galactic source energy, you know, like what Tesla was talking about.
Yeah.
Because, you know, Tesla says, you know, once we understood the magnificence of the 3, the 6, and the 9, that we would unlock a key to the universe. Well, do you know 369 implies a Fibonacci sequence that lands on 432? It's the only number sequence when you start with 3, and you know, it's 369. It just keeps going until it hits 432. So I think it's what okay, now you got a grid of 432 energy around this planet, right? I'd already learned to become a wave guide because of the work I did with
Mhm.
A.R. Bordon. So do you remember that recent uh, mass meditation,
Yeah, I
uh,
remember that.
April 4th? Well, no one knew. I didn't, it's not about me, but I can tell you I acted as a wave guide to take all of that energy and send it along to those that could know what to do with it. So I'm very excited for looking out into the future and seeing what effect this has, because it was specifically to bring mankind into the next golden age and
Awesome.
the total takedown of the dark cabal who has kept humanity in this economic slavery system, you know. So time will tell, right?
Well, my sources, and I'm not at liberty to say who they are, um, have said that we are not just in the switch from Pisces to Aquarius, but we are also in the switch of Yuga. We are now officially out of the Iron Yuga of destruction and transferring to a Golden Age Yuga.
Right on. You know what the yugas, when you add them up, it's 432,000 years. 432.
I had not done that yet.
Interesting, huh?
But yeah, that this transition period is going to be rough for approximately 7 to 10 years. And then after that, things are going to get a lot better. I guess we have to clear our shadows.
There is an event coming up in 2036 that we got to get our shit together, and that is, I think they call it Comet Apophis. You can look it up.
Yeah.
This is one of the things we learned from Boyd Bushman. He said, Lockheed Martin knows it's coming, and it's going to get here in 2029. It's going to get trapped between the Earth and the Moon, but there's a lot of different timelines. And, if you go into fear, it could be very ugly. But the other timeline is Chief Golden Light Eagle said that they've got permission now from Spirit to give their prophecy that the moon will take the hit and put herself in the way of this comet and still be horrific for mankind. But the third option is that it's our second moon being flown in, just like the first one was. And if you're in that timeline, it'll mark the true golden age, because that second moon will totally, you know how our moon regulates water patterns?
Mm-hmm.
And, things will be super regulated, and this place will turn into a tropical paradise like it's always intended. But he said, this is Chief Golden Light Eagle. He said, people need to know that if we don't change our ways from materialistic, the economy,
Yeah. Oh, the economy. Yes, I know.
Yeah, if we don't switch our mindset to that, to taking care of this planet and being respectful of Mother Gaia, that the doom and gloom outcome is very probable. But he said, because I brought up, the work I did with A.R. Bordon, we stopped a hurricane and a tsunami with 7 of us. Now, there's more people that were in different teams all over the planet. It wasn't just us, but,
yeah.
I know that when those of us come together, we can change reality. And he said, absolutely. He said, prayer can change anything. He said, because I brought up, what if we take the Native American Indian sun dance and change into a moon dance, a new Anunnaki moon dance that, we show the moon that we love her, and we go out and dance under her and play music, and there's no rules. There's no flesh and blood sacrifice.
Wiccans do that.
Yeah. We just will imagine if the whole world gets freed. Your job is the moon dance for up until 2036. That's
my job is a little different. I don't talk about what.
Will you still dance with us?
I would love to dance with you.
Yeah, why not, right?
I would love to dance with you. You will probably laugh at me falling over. So hopefully a happy laugh instead of a making fun of me one.
If anyone's gonna be made fun of, imagine Herman Munster dancing. That's me dancing. Yeah.
I can't imagine that. Your sense of rhythm and playing is too good.
No, you know what though? They say musicians can't dance, and I think it's true. It's like, that's my dance right there. You've seen it. But yeah, so I know I just danced on screen. You know what? Blushing, maybe it's because of the blood thing, but all my life, You know, when I was in school, like this girls in the clique, you know,
Yeah.
that unapproachable. Well, they would find out I would blush, so they made it their priority to every day get me to blush. So it actually had the most adverse effect. Is I never thought a girl was interested in me though my whole life because I'm like, oh, they're just trying to get me to blush. But yeah, I can't even control it. It's just I'm
Yeah, I
probably
can't
blushing.
control mine. I can't control mine either, but
Plus, it looks like I got some coffee flush going on.
it's
Mm,
okay.
I love my coffee. But
I,
yeah.
I wish
So
I could. Um, Over the years, because of something traumatic that happened to me, I have some food allergies, and coffee's one of them.
mm, I'm sorry to hear that. I uh, I like it. I like the 5 hour energy shots. You know, a lot of people are like, no, and energy drinks are bad. And it's like, no, it's truly not an energy drink. The 5 hour energy shots were created by a Tibetan monk who had such
Really?
intelligence over, you know, what minerals and
Mhm.
herbs and whatever to bring good energy into the body. And his brother had got cancer. So he
Mm.
made this concoction to bring good energy into his, you know, and it really helped his brother. And an investor somehow met them and he tried it and it became 5 hour energy shots. So this Tibetan monk is now a multi-billionaire. He's like, I don't
Awesome.
even want money, you know. It's like, but so he's become like one of the world's largest philanthropists. Did I say that right? Like he's
Yeah.
really put money into helping humanity and finding sustainable energy sources and whatnot. So yeah, I'm a big 5 hour energy fan.
I used to use those whenever I was still working at a regular job.
Hmm. Yeah, I like them.
I used to work at Walmart.
Ah,
Um, I was trained for cashier in jewelry, and running the table in fabrics and crafts. So they had me running around. I was one of the few people in the store that was actually full time and got overtime.
ah. Well, right on for, you know, we all need jobs and they're always stepping stones. But, you know, Chief Golden Light Eagle said, until you figure out some way of making a living on your own, you'll never be happy. You'll always be working for the man. And it's like it's said, most of us are stuck in 9 to 5s, you know, and
Well,
um,
somebody decided I needed to have time off, and I ended up hurting my back in the back room.
mm,
And that was in, well, I last worked in 2009. So now I have time to sit and do all the research that I do.
right on. See how it all works out?
It all works out.
I want to share one thing with you because it's important. You know, when I met the Anunnaki, in 2008, they said, we want to talk to you about this blood anomaly that was revealed on the History Channel. And they said, it's truly an indicator that you're of our Nephilim hybrid bloodline. They said, we were once known in your past as the Anunnaki, and you were once known as Ea Inki, the water bearer. And this is 2008. There was no Ancient Aliens on TV. I didn't know what an Anunnaki even was, so I surely didn't know who Ea or Inky or a water bearer. But now, because of, you know, NASA testing my work and it does resurrect dead water, now it's like I can look someone in the eye and go, yeah, I am the water bearer, you know. And also, you know, people are like, how do you know you're Ea or Inky? And I can tell you those names didn't mean anything to me whatsoever. But first of all, Inky is not a name, it's a title. It's kind of like the Dalai Lama, you know. But um, Ea, when I was invited to go to this Native American Indian ceremony, I started having all these synchronicities that had to do with grandfather. And when they took the tree down for the ceremony, afterwards, we were walking back to our cars, and some gentleman just ran up and grabbed me by the shoulder, and he said, they're having a grandfather meeting in the woods, and your presence is requested. And I said,
Okay.
okay, first of all, I'm not a grandfather. I don't even have children, so I don't know what this is about. But so I walk over there, and then the next thing that happens is there was a female sitting on the stump of the tree they had just cut down. And she pointed into the woods and said, they're right in there. You can't miss them. So I said, okay. So I barreled my way back into the woods and got all cut up by thorns and everything else. And, I get back there and there's no one there. I'm looking around. I'm like, am I being Indian punked? You know? And sure enough, no one,
Nay,
So,
punks.
so I make my way out of there and go back, get in the car, and we all go back to the grounds where the ceremony was happening. And walking back in, this little girl runs up to me and she goes, the grandfathers want you to know that you couldn't see them because they were in spirit. I'm like, what?
Okay.
How do you even know that? She goes, the spirit told me. And she like hopped off, and I'm like, what the hell is going on with grandfathers? So later on, I'm talking with one of the grandmothers, and a woman walks up and she talks to her. And after about 5 minutes, she goes, thank you so much for your time, grandmother. Oh, is this one of your grandchildren? She said, no, this is the grandfather. And I'm thinking, all right, I don't understand. I can't process what this grandfather stuff is all about. So later on, another grandmother, her name's Grandmother Morningstar, by the way. Isn't that interesting?
Mm-hmm.
She pulls up next to me out on the road that's outside of the grounds of the ceremony.
Okay.
And she says, Michael, will you go for a ride with me? She was pulled up in her minivan. I actually thought I was in trouble for smoking weed because some of them frowned upon it. And I go, oh shit, I'm in trouble, But I get in the car or the minivan, and she says, I want to talk to you about how the bloodline came into the North American continent and eventually became the Lakota, Dakota, Nakota, and the Cherokee and the Iroquois. And she said it would be really nice to have a map to use to show you. She went like this and over her windshield in her minivan, and a map of the United States appeared out of nowhere. Looked like a map of the United States, like Star Wars film, like a holographic red three-dimensional map of the United States. And then she looked at me and she said, I know you can see it. Yep, it's right there, So she proceeded to use that map to show me how the Sangreal, the Holy Grail bloodline, entered the North American continent and intertwined into the Native American Indian tribes. But she said, I want to talk to you about the dialect of the Sioux in particular. She said the same word for, she said, let's use grandfather, for example. I'm like, here we go again. What's this grandfather shit?
Grandfather is like sky god and your actual grandfather or any respected holy elder or the reincarnation of said.
Well,
all kind of rolled into one.
Well, I didn't know at this point, it was just a mystery to me. And she said the same word, let's take grandfather. In Lakota, that word will end in la. In Dakota, it will end in da. And then in Nakota, it'll end in na. And so then she's like, for instance, the most ancient word for grandfather in our language is Ia. It's Ia da. And I went, oh, it took, 2008 to 2016 for that confirmation to come of why they said you were once known as Ia, because it was confirmed by the Native American Indian elders as, They said before I was known as Ia, I was known as Michael. I'm like, well, that's really convenient because I can really, yeah, I'm. You can call me Mike, but
Thank you. I have been.
why not? Yeah, we'll just leave it at that.
When I first met Sarah, I asked her, does Michael get upset about people calling him Mike? And she just laughed at me.
No, I don't care at all. As long as you don't call me late for dinner, so they say.
I have to say something at this point. When the Anunnaki version of Ea shows up to see me, and he does about twice a year. He takes your form. I do not get to see the actual Anunnaki him. He appears as you.
Well, what's interesting is,
Remember, I messaged you about that once? Did you come to see me astral?
well, Sasha Lesson said as well, he goes, do you know you look exactly how Ia looked back in Sumer, Samaria? And he showed me the picture of, Inky back then. And I've had other people go, do you just look the same every time you incarnate?
No, because Sasha is another fractal and he doesn't look like you.
No.
Sometimes he acts like you, but it's okay. I like both of you.
It's all good.
It's all good. You're all doing what you're supposed to be doing.
I like to rock. I'm here to rock. They asked me, they said, you've done what you came to do, but you still have a long time on this planet. What do you truly want to do with the time you have left? Coming from where it was coming from, I knew it was a pretty potent question, but it didn't take me long. I said, I want to play music. That's really what brings me joy, and I feel the most connected to source when I play music. They said that's perfect. We're not looking for a politician, and we're not looking for an evangelist. So go out and play your guitar and let your freak flag fly. That was their,
awesome.
Yeah. So
I enjoy your music. I learned the violin, not well. I learned the recorder, not well. I used to sing a cappella, and then I had too many ear infections. And to me, I sound perfect when I sing, but everybody else says I'm flat. So I turn on rock music and sing along to it, and the rock music is loud enough no one hears me off key.
Sing anyhow. Maybe they're off,
Yeah. So
I've been told the same thing, by the way. I was working with a producer once, and he's like, dude, you can play a mean guitar, but you can't sing worth a shit. That didn't stop me.
Good. I like your voice. The couple of them that I've heard you actually sing on, it's a good voice for rock.
Thanks. It's interesting. My uncle sent me, found out my biological father is Eric Clapton, and let's just say we have very similar voices. I should start a Clapton cover band.
Nah, do your own thing. Make him proud.
He was at the hospital when I was born. I don't talk about that much, but him and the remaining, the other members of Cream and Phil Collins was all there.
Gee, I've always liked Phil Collins.
Me too. So. It is hotter, and I can't think of any clean sayings to fill in there, but I'm in my my office.
You're in Florida, and
yes.
It's mid-afternoon there.
Yeah, it's probably about 90.
I'm in Central California near Yosemite, high enough elevation, and during a rainstorm. So we are in the 50s. That's why I'm still in long sleeves.
Right on.
So normally it starts getting warm here in April. So I'm like, okay, I drug the dresses out of the closet. When do I get to wear them?
Hmm. I was trying to
Who
locate my
says next
pirate
week?
shirt for your interview, but I couldn't find it. I got a pirate shirt. I've never wore it. It's like a little bit too much for me, but I'm like, fuck it. I'm going to wear my pirate shirt. And I couldn't find it. So I'm in a t-shirt. I went the total other route.
It's okay. You get to be you for me.
And I got my pajamas on, but you can't see that either.
That's all right. I wanted you comfortable. So, now, were you ever at the Link meetings yourself?
No. I was groomed to be there at the next one, so to speak. The work we did in 2012 was the Earth events coming up that were at the previous Link conference.
Okay.
And then we addressed those. Like I said, one was the galactic superwave. The other one was the effects of Nibiru coming into our solar system. And, but that's right after that in 2013 is when AR passed. And, you know, he did say, you know, the whole purpose is to have a larger percentage of humans at the Link table, so to speak. And I'm not so sure it hasn't happened in other realms, you know, but no, not in this physical realm of Mike talking to you as a ship ever showed up in the backyard and went, hey, they're waiting for you at the Link conference. And I did it in my waking state. That hasn't happened. I've heard as, yeah, I've been into many of the underground bases, but I guess they just don't think I can handle it, and I'm made not to remember. But I've asked them now, you know what, how about you let me remember? I'm a big boy now. I can handle it, I think. I guess, you know.
Yeah.
What you asked for, right?
Be careful what you ask for, because they started, some of them started appearing to me as their natural forms, and it was like, okay. I took a deep breath, swallowed hard, and went into disassociation, and didn't
My
freak
lips are
out.
getting chapped if you see me keep messing with my mouth. I forgot to get a drink of water. Oh,
Yeah,
well.
I've noticed you're not drinking water.
Well, I forgot. The water bearer doesn't have any water.
The irony.
Yeah, that's how I roll.
Was there anything else that you wanted to bring up?
No, well, I am a comedian. Most people don't know this, but I would love to share my favorite joke with you.
Sure.
Ask me if I'm an orange.
Are you an orange?
No. Thank you. I'll be here all night.
Well, on that note, I'm going to let you go and remind our listeners, I'm going to be playing one of the recordings that Mike has on his YouTube channel of two of his musical pieces set at 432 for A.
Yeah.
So, and the link to that video will be in the description. So
thank you very much, and turn it up loud.
Oh yeah, it's good. So thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
I have no idea how to shut this thing off.